Welcome back to another episode of Mindset and You, our season 2 interviews. And I've been really looking forward to this one. Chatting with our next guest, I'd like to thank Lynn for joining us today. Myself and Lynn and Gemma go back a few years, so we'll talk about that in a little while. So Lynn, welcome, and would you introduce yourself to our listeners and just explain your current role for us?
Yes, so I'm Lynn Williams. I'm the head teacher at St Peters Primary School in Farnworth. I've been head teacher here since 2007, but my first role here was as a co-head teacher. So I had a young child at home, was a deputy, and was aspirational about headship, and saw a position advertised that allowed me to go into headship, but in a flexible way. So it was a part-time role. So in 2007, I started here part-time with a co-head as an apprentice, you might say, lots to learn from a really experienced head who was already in post. And that was really good because we're all about collaborative learning, aren't we? That's why we're in this role. So I spent a good few years in collaboration. And then the person I worked alongside retired, and I took over the substantive role. And I've been on my own here as single head ever since. Good few years. Yeah. But it was honestly, if people are looking for flexible leadership roles, I couldn't recommend it enough. The safety net that provided, having two people. Part of the interview process was talking about two heads being better than one, quite literally, and it was great to have a partner.
It's great to be able to bounce off, to be able to get those frustrations out, but also be inspired by.
Absolutely. We talked about synergy a lot. We talked about learning from each other and polarizing skills, really. So we each took our own role in school, but by watching the other, we were learning from their expertise as well. So
brilliant. Because you don't want to be clones, do you? You don't want to be a clone of someone else.
No, and actually that doesn't make a good team anyway, doesn't it? We weren't trying to recreate each other, but we were trying to learn from each other, but bring our own skills
out. Fantastic. So talking about your current role as head teacher at St Peters, what makes you so passionate about, you've been there a while, so so what makes you so passionate about there's that school being your base in your family?
It's a tricky one, because when you get up in the morning, you've got to think, what am I going to do with my day? What's my day going to bring? And actually, for me, there can be no greater role than getting up in the morning and actually seeking to influence the next generation. It's about my son will, because I talk to my son a lot about growth mindset and learning and knowledge, and he'll say to me, Mum, all this knowledge that I'm gaining, when I'm no longer here, where's this knowledge going to go? It's quite a tricky perception, really. So, and actually, well, you've got to pass it on. You've got to spread the knowledge. You've got to not just keep it within you. You've got to let it move it on. So my passion really is about wanting children to, it's a cliche, isn't it, about be the best they can be. But actually, that is my passion. That is my passion, not trying to break down the barriers of the children believing that their destiny is determined. Born here, this is what happens in Farnworth, this is the way my life is going to be, and actually trying to help children to appreciate that they can break down those barriers and their destiny is not predetermined by anything other than how hard they're prepared to work.
It's breaking those cycles, isn't it?
It is, and reminding the children that the more you put into something, the more you're likely to get out of it. I've got a sign on my wall, and I'll refer to it quite a lot. And it's a quote, and we're not here to bring children up to face this cruel and heartless world. We're here to help children make the world less cruel and less heartless. The destiny isn't determined, and they'll just land in this future. they can create their own, and that's what keeps me going, really.
Definitely. And it's having that self-belief and confidence, isn't it?
Yeah. And in these difficult times as well, you know, we could get compounded by the world is not a particularly joyous place at the moment, but actually we've got to overcome that.
Yeah.
We've got to start saying, well, let's do things, let's be in control of what we were just talking about before. Let's be in control of what we can control, and let's do what we can to make it better.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned then about your son and about passing that knowledge and information and being a positive influencer to the people around you. And that's what growth mindset's all about. It's not just about developing your own abilities, but it's actually developing the people around you and the skills. And you've been a major influence in education going back years. And for us as classroom teachers, we first knocked on your door back in January 2017. Where we were still classroom-based teachers, and we had a vision at the time about developing Grow Your Mindset. You provided support, inspiration and encouragement to us. So what is it about education that drives you personally, plus drives you to influence others like that, like you did for us? And you've done that for other small businesses as well.
I don't. Yeah, it's a tricky one, because I don't aim to seek to influence. That's not why I'm trying to do it. What I'm trying to do is quite selfish, really, I suppose. But get all this energy that's inside of me out and impacting on others, because I genuinely feel there's far too many people with a belief that their destiny is predetermined at birth. And I think that, and I'm trying to help people to understand that doesn't have to be the case. A big influence in my life, and we've talked about this before, but my husband's a golfer, and one Christmas he was bought a book by Matthew Syed called Bounce, The Myth of Talent and the Power of Practice. And having read this book that he was bought for Christmas, he started to talk about needing to go and play golf more, because he needed to practice more to be able to get better. I thought, right, well, I better read this book, and I better find out what's going on, so I can counter-argue him and make him stay at home. But actually, having read that book, my eyes were completely opened to a whole new way of life, a whole new way of thinking about things, because actually, having been a good girl at school myself, and having, you know, just found myself in those O-level groups, not the CSE groups, and then going on to do L, I'd found myself in a position where I believed I was a clever girl.
Right.
Yeah. And actually reading that book helped me to see myself a little bit differently, and see myself not as a clever girl, but actually as a determined, persistent, resilient, hard worker.
Yeah.
And for me, my eyes were opened by reading that book, and I just sort of felt, wow, I've got to tell the world about this. I've got to share this information. I've got to share this journey, because if I was thinking like that, there's got to be loads of people who think that way.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't ever seek to influence. I just sought to shed some light on a different way of thinking, really. And the more people I found who were of a similar inclination to me, and we could share the same conversation and share the passion in the room, which is what I did with you, it was almost compounding. It was almost, we're onto something here. Let's go out there and spread this word.
Yeah.
It was about sharing information and spreading the knowledge together, really.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about having that feeling of being smart when you were younger, and it is that label can become really quite capping in your abilities. If you're smart, you maybe don't embrace a challenge just in case you lose that label. But also, if you've been told you're not smart, and the detrimental effect that has on mindset. So it works at both ends of the scale, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and it is a pre-limiter. It can be.
Yeah. And one of the things we got from you is learning is limitless.
Absolutely. Because growth mindset and fixed mindset have almost become just terms that have been plonked on to Carol Dweck, but actually it wasn't that. It was never that. It was an entity theory of learning and an incremental theory of learning. An entity theory being you've only got so much knowledge, and an incremental theory being actually knowledge is incremental, and you can gain more and gain more, and where's the end to that? And I think growth mindset got a bit of a bad press for a while, but incremental learning theory never did. And actually, they're the same thing. Learning, simply building up knowledge, knowing more.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of leadership, myself and Gemma have been quite honoured, really, because we've interviewed leaders from business and education, and there's a real strong correlation between the two. So what are the 3 aspects of leadership that you would consider to have the greatest impact in creating a successful school? Because you're an outstanding school. So what 3 aspects would you say are the...
It's a tricky one, this, and you'll probably find some interleaving between the 3, but certainly if we're in the business of education and we're in the business of helping children to know more, then actually we have to bring that same theory into our staff teams. So for me, the first thing is believing in the power of training staff. You don't appoint ready-made people, because they will never be how they are going to turn out ultimately through your influence and impact. You appoint people on the basis of their willingness to learn and their willingness to adapt and their willingness to grow. So for me, the first and important bit about leadership is recognising the contributions of your team, but appointing on will and then training that skill. And I know that's a cliche, but it's about recognising that people come to work to get better. They come to work to do a good job. And so actually it's all about training and empowering and supporting people to go on a learning journey themselves through the job, not being critical of a person who doesn't fill the mould in the way you hope they would. It's your job to help them become the better person and become the better role, whatever role they have in school. So it's about acknowledging that we can all grow, we can all get better, we can all learn new skills, and actually investing some of you into those people.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find sometimes that people have the fears and anxieties because they worry they don't have a skill set at the starting point, and therefore if I don't have that skill set, I'm not going to be able to do the job, and I'm going to get judged on that?
And I think you see that the higher up the influential ladder you become. So there's so many deputies who will say, I couldn't be a head, I couldn't do headship. I see what you're doing, and I couldn't do that. You think, well, I couldn't do it until I did it. None of us can, we're not born into this position, are we? We stick our neck out a little bit, we apply for the job, we know we're not the ready-made article, because if we were, we'd be there already, and we know we were prepared to learn through that job. I think another one is the power of collaboration, and I demonstrated that through applying for a co-headship role. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows everything, and nobody brings everything, and nobody has every skill possible. But together, the team can. And it's about recognising each person's uniqueness, and recognising each person might think a little bit differently, and just because they do, that doesn't make them any less good at their job. It actually brings a different set of skills and a different set of perspectives. And so it's about leading through listening. I think what's their perception on this that's different to my perception on this, and not that one perception is right or wrong, but how can we learn together? And then I think finally, and my third thing would be praise effort. Praise, look to see people really looking to go above and beyond. And that, you know, there's a lot of talk at the moment about well-being, and we're sometimes a little bit scared to push people because it might impact on their well-being. And actually what I've found is the more confidence you have to give people a little bit more responsibility, the more it impacts on their well-being for the greater good.
Yeah.
Rather than them feeling boxed and hemmed in. So
Yeah.
collaboration, learning and listening, and driving people to become better, I think.
And then if you're role modelling that as a staff, because if it's obviously SLT have that belief and that support and that praise and the effort with the staff do it with each other, and then that drip feeds down to the children.
Absolutely.
Creating a whole ethos there, aren't you?
Yeah, because it and certainly as teachers, we should, if we know what works for children, and children are just little adults, aren't they? So we know what works for adults too. So it's about bringing that classroom spirit into a leadership role, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Fabulous. So, you know, myself and Gemma from going back, gosh, I can't believe 3 years. But it was just how our paths crossed. And
yeah, and again, that's the power of Twitter, isn't it? And the power of seeking like-minded people and non-like-minded people, as the case may be, but seeking out others who you want to sing the same song with, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, they say, don't they, surround yourself with people who uplift you,
Absolutely.
not drain you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really important. So we're dead passionate, as you know, about developing growth mindset. In terms of mindset, we've got a really strong passion that mindset is the foundation for learning. So whatever you build on, that will be more powerful. If you get children becoming mindset aware and that they have choice, that is a game changer in terms of learning. So based on the situation schools have faced since March with lockdown and COVID, what would you say have been the biggest challenges your schools faced? And have you seen your own mindset and that of your team being challenged, and how have you overcome some of those challenges?
It's challenging is the word, really.
Yeah.
And the biggest challenge I've encountered is not being able to influence through being in the same room as somebody, and holding conversation and communication, because I would do a whole school assembly on a Monday. It was like the start of the week. It was the setting of the ethos. Every member of staff, all 70 of us in there, all children in there, sharing messages, giving messages, delivering messages, role modelling, talking through ethos, and not being able to do that, because it is difficult to influence through a screen. There's no doubt about it. You can't read people the same. You can't feel people the same. So for me, communication is what drip feeds the ethos into a school. That's what leadership is: walking the walk and talk and being there and being present. And when I'm in my office and everybody's in their own bubbles, being present to seek to influence is really tricky. It's really tricky. So quite early on in lockdown, we're talking April, May, I started to recognise that I wasn't able to get my messages across as easily as we were, because we weren't all in the same building, never mind that in the same room, we were all working from home. And I was approached by Bolton ICT about setting up Microsoft Teams, because we didn't use Microsoft Teams before. And I went against my mindset, Liz. I've got to say, my initial response to that was, no, I don't want to bring an additional burden onto the staff. They're already not in the best of places. It's tricky, and I don't want to actually put more work onto them by learning a new skill.
Learning something else,
and that's not me. That isn't the way. So, but actually, I said, look, I'll trial it myself. I'll have a go with it myself. I'll have a play about with it. Install it for me, and we did. And I had a play, and I thought, I'm actually preventing people from getting better at what they do by keeping this to myself. I'm going to have to open it up, share with them some of the possibilities, let them play, let them have a go with it themselves, and get it rolled out. And we did. So 3 or 4 months down the line, I've got 3 at home at the moment, regrettably isolating, but 3 or 4 hours worth of remote learning happening through Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
And that's the journey we've been on. And I recognise that by me limiting them by saying, I don't want you to have any extra work, I was actually preventing them from learning a new skill.
Yeah.
And preventing ultimately being where we needed to be. So communication is still difficult, but it's better because we've now got teams in place. We've got lots of different teams in schools. The SLT have their own channel. All the classes are now have their own channel. So we're not there, and I think that's probably again a mindset issue for me. Sometimes I want it to be perfect straight away, rather than go through the journey of learning and getting better.
Yeah, and a lot of that normally is down to time. You just want it right.
It is. If we're going to do something, I want it ultimately to be the investment to have been worth that time.
Yeah. And
that's because sometimes you learn more and still decide to abandon something, don't I? I'm not great at that, Liz, got to say. But we are definitely learning, and Microsoft Teams has become part of our practice. And actually, I'm glad now that I didn't restrain people and hold it back, and we went for it.
And in terms of challenge, I think no matter what sector that you are in, whether you're in education, business, hospitality, that adaptation and change has been critical. For survival, really, in terms of surviving businesses.
I mean, you only look at Amazon, and the way they adapt to the new challenges that they're entrepreneurial, and it's
and it's been an inspiration actually seeing people how they have adapted and the tools that they've used and the things they've done differently.
So we do whole school assembly again, but it's just via a screen. It's not exactly the same. It's not as cozy, but we are bringing back in now a lot of the things that we thought we weren't possible. But it's still possible to do them differently.
And it's knowing, isn't it, after a storm, the sun always comes through.
One of my assemblies, the clouds, the sun's always shining behind the clouds.
Well, one day, it's funny actually, because I did a throwback Thursday, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was doing a whole school assembly at one of the schools where we took the brain in. Do you remember these? Seem an age ago, don't they? Oh, dear. Right, so one thing that I notice whenever I have the pleasure of coming into school, in your school in particular, is that learning vibe. As soon as you walk through the door, the staff in the office, and then you walk through those double doors, and it's just an amazing feeling. The eye-catching displays, the messages, and your ethos is learn, sparkle and shine. Okay. And often school strap lines are exactly that. They're just words, and they're not full of substance. But with you, how would you describe your ethos and how mindset underpins the experiences that your children have every day? Because you can feel it and breathe it when you walk in. And to create that, and I've been in schools that have had similar strap lines and you don't feel it. So what is it? Is it a mixture of lots of things?
It probably is, because I can't take any credit for the strapline learn, sparkle and shine. Just before I started here, a competition was run, and the head that I ended up working alongside with ran that competition, and the children came up with learn, sparkle and shine as what they believed they came to school to do. So actually they originated that, but to keep it going for the last 13, 14 years and to make it high profile, we've had to bring it to life. We've had to unpick it. And what does to learn, to sparkle, to shine, what do those things actually mean? So so it's sort of been an evolution, but actually under the old Every Child Matters agenda that we, the government brought out a few years ago, that was about children having opportunities to do different things, and actually it fits perfectly. So learn at the absolute forefront of the strap line. You come to school to learn, and our corridors have got street signs on them. The main one being Progress Avenue. When you walk into school, the first corridor that you walk down to get to anywhere, you have to walk down Progress Avenue, and it's actually labelled with that.
Yeah.
You come to school to learn. You come to school to get cleverer. You come to school to know more. And on the window it says something along the lines of, where you start doesn't impress me, but it doesn't depress me neither. All our children enter our reception class with a wide array of skills. Some of them know lots, some of them know little. That's not the issue. That doesn't matter. But wherever you start, you come to school to every day walk down Progress Avenue and know a little bit more than you knew before that day happened. And it's the same for the teachers. You come to school to make sure those children know more when they leave your room at the end of the day than when they came into your room that morning. So learn is absolutely at the forefront of it all, and I will not accept an excuse from anybody who will try to say that they aren't able to make progress. We can all make progress. We might not be running, we might not be walking, we might even only just be crawling, but we are at least further on. So learn is what school's all about. That's every school in every walk of life must have learn as their core purpose. But then sparkle and shine. Sparkle is about, do I have a potential Olympic gymnast in my school? I won't know unless I give children the very best opportunity to do gymnastics. So sparkle is about every child being provided with a curriculum that will help them to find their sparkle. So sparkle is about the breadth of the curriculum and not limiting it to the things that are quite core. We all need a core curriculum, don't get me wrong, we do. But sparkle is about those extracurricular activities, those enrichment opportunities, those do the plays, do the songs, even go skiing if we could, because I might have an Olympic skier in my school, but we'll never know if we're going to be an Olympic skier if we never put skis on our feet. So we have to give children an opportunity to find their sparkle, find what it is that they will become a gold medalist in. And then shine is about the fact that we are a church school, and we are committed to being a beacon in society and spreading influence and spreading impact into the community. So my job is not to help children become social climbers to move out of Farnworth, but to stay in Farnworth and allow Farnworth to socially climb with them. And so Learn, Sparkle and Shine actually totally epitomises what we do. For me, it's about what schools should be about. So it's not that I'm making this stuff up, it's what we do. It's our core business. Walk down Progress Avenue. It's not our job to create children to land in a future that somebody else has created. It's our job to give children the opportunity to create their future, to be the future that they want their future to be like, be the change they want to see in the world. If you're going to moan about it, do something about it.
That's building that resilience, isn't it?
So that's our vision, really. Our children will, the overall vision is our children will contribute to and prosper in society. Not just be a participant or a bystander in society, but contribute to it and prosper in it. And they need knowledge to do that. So hopefully we'll give them that.
Well, with that explanation, it's definitely more than 3 words.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, learn, sparkle and shine, that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what you said about learning there, because a lot of children that we talk to when we do our mindset motivation program,
Yeah.
they feel they come to school to perform.
Yeah.
And they're in more of a performance zone,
Yeah.
rather than a learning zone. And when you talk about what learning looks, sounds and feels like, that switch and that perception is quite a bit of a game changer for some children.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about going through the tough times, isn't it? And
yeah,
I think we all struggle with that. I've struggled with that, like I say, from being a clever girl at school. You went to school to pass your exams.
Yeah.
Not to actually gain something through the process.
And I'm you know, there's so many strong heads and leaders out there like yourself that have this passion, and it's just about changing that focus, isn't it? Because it can become quite results driven.
Well, our accountability system is around outcomes, isn't it? Not process.
Yeah.
It's about to change the perceptions of people when they come into school, to look at the process, not just the outcomes. And we're getting better at that.
Yeah.
Intent, we're looking at implementation, still looking at impact, of course, which is right.
Yeah.
But it's about what is happening for the children from whatever their starting points are.
It's that journey, isn't it, from the starting point to the outcome that is the power, not just the outcome and having to be a certain level. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Do you know what? I can't have wished for a better Monday morning, because you've set me up for the week.
Oh, thank you.
And albeit virtual, we've not had a cup of tea or a biscuit or anything.
Bread and butties soon.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely fab. And we'll be round when we can, and we'll come and have a proper natter.
Can't wait. And you keep up the good work doing what you're doing. I know you're still in schools. Many schools are still letting visitors in, so I know you're still doing that. And
still
I know
going around.
we've booked for an author visit.
Yes.
Eddie effort.
All about effort, which we've just been talking about. Praising effort.
That as well, so we will catch up soon in the new year.
Definitely. Fabulous. Thank you very much. See you later.
Thanks, Liz. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.